The mansion stood high on the silver hills, its walls glowing with soft blue lights. From outside, it looked alive with wealth, the kind of place where voices of joy should echo. But inside, the halls were quiet, so quiet that even the sound of footsteps felt like an intruder. Servants moved carefully, speaking in whispers. They knew their lady wanted silence, and no one dared disturb her heavy heart. The alien mother, rich beyond measure, had built this mansion with treasures from across the stars. Ships came and went, jewels arrived, fine fabrics covered the walls, but none of this brought her peace. For in the center of her home, in the brightest room, sat her daughter, paralyzed since birth. The girl's eyes were wide and bright, but her body refused to move. Her small hands rested weakly on the chair, her legs still as stone. The mother loved her child with all her soul, but every day she looked upon her and felt the wound of helplessness grow deeper. Doctors had come from the finest cities. Machines had been wheeled in, glowing with alien lights. Healers whispered chants, priests prayed, science and faith stood side by side, but nothing worked. The girl never walked, never ran, never even took a single step. The mother's heart was like glass, cracked but not broken. She was powerful. In front of the world, a millionaire with influence, but in front of her daughter, she was weak. Each morning, the servants opened the golden curtains, letting sunlight stream across the girl's face. Sometimes the mother saw her daughter smile at the warmth. Sometimes she saw tears gather in her eyes. But the girl never complained, never cried out. She only sat, watching others move while she remained still. This quiet strength made the mother's pain even heavier. She wished her daughter would scream or shout, but the silence was worse than any cry. At night, the mansion turned cold. The mother often walked through the halls alone, her long dress brushing against the marble floors. She would stop at the door of her daughter's room and watch. The girl often stayed awake, staring at the stars through the wide glass window. "Do you dream of walking among them?" the mother whispered once. Her daughter turned her head, slowly, and gave a small nod. That single nod broke her heart more than 1,000 words could. The mother had all the riches in the galaxy, but none could buy what she truly wanted. Her friends envied her ships, her lands, her jewels, but she envied the poorest farmer who could see his child run freely in the fields. She envied the beggar, who could hold his daughter's hand as they walked together. Riches tasted like ash in her mouth when she thought of this. Rumors spread about the mansion. People in the city whispered. Some said the child was cursed. Some said the mother had angered the stars. Others believed the girl was waiting for a miracle that science could not give. The mother ignored these whispers, but in her heart, she feared they might be true. She began to pray in secret, though she had never believed in gods. She prayed to the stars, to fate, to anything that might listen. Give her legs, give her strength. Take everything from me if you must. She begged. In silence, the servants noticed how their lady changed. She smiled less, her eyes grew darker, yet she never left her daughter's side. Every gathering, every celebration, she refused to attend. All her world was now inside those quiet walls, inside that one room. She was a queen locked inside her own grief. Then one evening, as the sky burned orange with twin suns setting behind the hills, the mother sat beside her daughter's chair. She held the girl's small hand. "My child," she whispered, "if I could give you my legs, I would. If I could carry you into the stars, I would. I am rich in gold, but poor in hope." The girl turned her eyes and stared at her mother. She did not speak, but something shone there, something quiet yet unbroken. It was not despair, it was waiting. The mother pressed her forehead against her daughter's hand. A tear slid down her cheek. In that moment, she wished for a miracle, even though she no longer believed in them. What she did not know was that her wish had already started to take shape. Far away across the city, a human was preparing to enter her life. Not as a doctor, not as a healer, but as something unexpected. And when he came, the silence of the mansion would never be the same again. The night was heavy with clouds, the twin moons hidden behind a dark veil. Inside the mansion, the mother sat near her daughter, still thinking of the promise she made to the stars. She told herself no stranger could ever change their fate, yet fate itself was already walking toward her door. The human arrived, not with music or ceremony, but quietly, as though the world did not notice him. He was hired only to fix a broken device in the mansion, a small matter the servants thought unimportant. His clothes were plain, his tools carried in a simple case. Nothing about him spoke of wealth or power. Yet the way he walked, calm, steady, without fear, made him seem different from the others who came before. When he entered the great hall, the servants bowed lightly, whispering to each other, for humans were rare on this world. Few trusted them. Some even laughed at their primitive ways. The human ignored the whispers. His eyes moved not to the golden walls or glowing chandeliers, but to the silence. He felt it press against his chest. He knew this house carried sadness heavier than stone. The mother appeared soon after, dressed in silver robes. Her face showed pride and caution. She looked at the human as one might look at a puzzle. He bowed slightly. "I came to repair the device, my lady," he said with a calm voice. The mother nodded, but her eyes lingered on him. She had seen many workers before, yet this one stood differently, as if his heart carried weight beyond his years. As he moved through the hall, his steps echoed softly. Then he stopped, for his gaze had fallen upon the girl. She sat near the window in her chair, her small figure wrapped in pale cloth. Her eyes lifted to meet his for a long moment. Neither spoke. The human did not show pity. He did not turn away like others. Instead, he smiled. Not forced, but warm, as if he saw her as whole. The girl blinked. Her lips trembled as though she wanted to smile back. The mother noticed this and felt a strange unease. No healer, no doctor, no priest had ever looked at her daughter like that. They always looked at her body, at her weakness, at her condition. But this human looked straight into her eyes, as though speaking without words. Later, as the human repaired the device, he spoke casually with the servants. His voice was low but steady. When one servant whispered about the cursed child, he turned sharply. "She is not cursed," he said firmly. The words struck the air like thunder. The servant fell silent, embarrassed. The mother, listening from behind the curtain, felt her heart stir. Why would a stranger defend her daughter so quickly, so fiercely? That evening, as he finished his work, he asked softly, "May I speak to her?" The mother hesitated, her pride and fear wrestling inside her. But something in his voice felt different. Not demanding, not arrogant. She nodded slowly. The human approached the girl's chair. He knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. "Hello," he said. "My name is Arik." The girl's lips moved weakly. Her voice came as a whisper. "Leora," she said. It was the first time in many days she had spoken to a stranger. Arik smiled. "Leora, that is a beautiful name." The girl lowered her gaze, unused to such simple kindness. The mother stood nearby, watching every detail. She wanted to dismiss him, yet could not. Something was unfolding before her eyes, something she could not stop. As Arik prepared to leave, he turned once more to the mother. "I am only a worker, my lady," he said, "but I have seen strength in humans where no one expected it. May I return not for work but to sit with your daughter?" The mother's heart pounded. No one had ever asked this before. She opened her mouth to refuse, but her daughter's eyes lifted, full of a silent plea. The mother felt the world shift inside her chest. She could not say no, not to those eyes. She nodded once, sharply. "You may?" she said. Her voice trembled, though she tried to sound strong. That night, after the human had gone, the mansion no longer felt the same. The silence still lingered, but beneath it was something else, a spark, a whisper of change. The girl's lips still carried the faint shape of a smile. The mother sat alone in her chamber, whispering to herself, "Why him? Why now?" She did not know the answer, but she knew one thing. The human was not like the others. He was unexpected, and sometimes the unexpected carried the weight of miracles. The next morning, the mansion's servants were surprised. The human returned, not with tools, not with machines, but with empty hands. He carried only a small bag at his side. His steps were calm, his eyes steady. The mother met him at the entrance. Her arms folded, her gaze sharp. "You are not here for work," she said coldly. Arik bowed his head slightly. "No, my lady. I am here for your daughter." The servants gasped at his bold words. Some whispered that he was foolish, others that he was daring. The mother hesitated, her pride fighting her curiosity. At last she stepped aside, allowing him to enter. Leora was waiting near the wide window. The light of the suns painted her face in soft gold. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. She had been silent all morning, but now her lips curved faintly. The mother noticed this and felt her chest tighten. She had not seen such a smile in years. Arik approached slowly, then knelt before the chair. Again, he placed his hand gently over Leora's. His touch was warm, human, simple, not filled with glowing energy or advanced science, just the touch of skin against skin. The girl did not pull away, instead her eyes widened as though something unseen passed through her. "I want to tell you a story," Arik said softly. "A story about a boy who could not walk." The room grew still. Even the servants nearby leaned closer. This boy was told he would never stand, never run, never be free, but he refused to give up. Every day he tried, he fell, he cried, but he kept trying. And one day, he walked, not because of magic, not because of machines, but because of courage and will. Leora's lips parted. "Was that boy you?" she asked weakly. Arik smiled gently. "Yes," he whispered. The mother gasped, her hand covering her mouth. She had heard tales of human resilience but never seen it so near. Arik opened his small bag. Inside were not medicines or machines, but simple straps, wooden supports, and cloth. "These are not alien devices," he said. "These are human tools. They are humble, but they can teach your body to remember what it was made for." The mother frowned. "Our healers tried machines 100 times stronger." Arik shook his head. "Strength is not always the answer. Sometimes the answer is patience, sometimes it is touch." He began to show Leora gentle movements. He lifted her leg with care, guiding it slowly. He encouraged her to push against his hand. Her muscles trembled. Her face tightened. In pain, the mother almost shouted for him to stop, but then she saw something. Her daughter's eyes burned with determination. She whispered. Again. Hour after hour, Arik worked with her. His voice was steady, his touch firm but kind. He told her when she did well. He reminded her not to fear the pain. "Pain means your body is waking," he said. The servants stood in awe. Never had they seen the girl move so much. Never had they seen her try. That evening, as the sun set, Leora managed to lift herself a little from the chair, just for a heartbeat before falling back. Her chest heaved, her face pale, but her eyes sparkled. The mother ran forward, kneeling beside her. "Enough," she whispered. "You will hurt yourself." But Leora shook her head slowly. "I stood," she breathed. Tears welled in the mother's eyes. She looked at Arik, this strange human who had done more in one day than her wealth had done in years. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice breaking. Arik looked at her, his gaze calm. "Because she deserves to walk. Because no one should be trapped when there is hope." That night the mansion was no longer silent. The walls carried whispers of hope. The servants spoke in wonder. Some still doubted, others believed, but all of them had seen the girl's first attempt to rise. And the mother, though torn between fear and hope, could not ignore the fire she had seen in her daughter's eyes. She sat by Leora's bed as the girl slept, her tiny chest rising and falling. The mother brushed her hair gently and whispered, "If there is even a chance, I will not let it slip away." Outside, the stars glimmered in the dark sky. The human's touch had brought change, small but powerful. The mansion, once filled with silence, now held the faint heartbeat of a miracle. The next days were filled with struggle. The mansion, once silent like a tomb, now echoed with new sounds, groans of effort, soft cries of pain, and sometimes even laughter. Leora had begun her training under Arik's watchful eyes, and each moment tested the limits of her strength. Arik rose early each morning, waiting for her in the bright chamber. He placed the simple wooden supports on the floor, straps ready and his steady hands open. Leora would look at him with tired eyes, but she never said no. Her voice was weak, yet her will was strong. The mother stood at the doorway most mornings, her heart divided between fear and wonder. The first steps were cruel. Her legs trembled like thin branches in a storm. Every attempt ended with her falling back into the chair. Her body shook, her face wet with tears. The mother cried out, "Enough, she cannot bear this." But Arik's calm voice always answered, "She can, trust her, not her weakness, trust her spirit." And then, to everyone's surprise, Leora would whisper, "Again." Hours turned into days and days into weeks. Slowly, tiny victories appeared. A twitch of the toes, a slight push against the wooden frame, a single second standing before collapsing. These small triumphs were treasures greater than gold. Each one lit hope in the girl's eyes. Each one carved away the despair in the mother's heart. But progress brought pain, and pain tested courage. Sometimes Leora screamed, her voice sharp like broken glass. The servants rushed forward in panic, but Arik would raise his hand. "Do not pity her," he said firmly. "She is stronger than you think." The mother clenched her fists, tears in her eyes, yet she saw the fire in her daughter's face. Leora was not broken. She was fighting. One night, after a long day of training, the mother sat beside her daughter's bed. She brushed away the sweat from her brow and whispered, "Why do you push yourself so hard?" Leora, though weak, smiled faintly. "Because when I stand, I feel alive. When I fall, I feel closer to standing. I do not want to live in silence anymore." The mother buried her face in her hands, realizing her daughter carried more courage than she had ever imagined. The mansion itself seemed to change. The servants, once silent and fearful, now whispered prayers of encouragement. Some left small gifts near Leora's chair, flowers, fruits, even carved figures for luck. The air that once carried sorrow now carried the weight of hope. Fragile but growing, Arik remained steady through it all. He did not promise miracles. He never said it would be easy, but his words carried power. "Your legs remember more than you think," he told Leora. "Each time you fall, they learn. Each time you rise, you teach them courage." His touch was firm, his eyes kind, his belief never wavered. One stormy evening, the sound of rain pounded the mansion's roof. The winds howled against the windows. Inside, Leora stood with the supports, her body shaking. Arik stood beside her but did not hold her. "One more step," he urged. "Trust yourself." Her mother clutched the curtain with trembling hands, praying silently. Leora moved one foot forward, then the other. She cried out, her face twisted with pain, but she did not fall. She took 3 small steps before collapsing into Arik's arms. The hall filled with gasps and shouts. The mother rushed forward, falling to her knees. Her tears mixed with her daughter's sweat. "You walked," she sobbed. "You walked." Leora, exhausted, whispered with a smile, "I can do more." That night, the storm outside seemed weaker than the storm inside the mansion. For the first time, the silence was broken by voices filled with joy. The servants sang softly as they worked, their eyes brighter. The mother sat by her daughter's side. Holding her hand tightly, she whispered to the stars, "Thank you, whoever you are. Thank you." But in the quiet of her heart, she feared too. She feared what would happen if this fragile progress was lost. She feared the pain might one day break her daughter. Yet every time she looked at Leora, she saw not weakness but strength. And when she looked at Arik, she wondered if humans carried secrets that no riches could ever buy. The mansion that once knew only silence now carried the sound of footsteps, small, shaky, but real. They were not yet steady, they were not yet strong, but they were a promise. And sometimes a promise was more powerful than any treasure. The night came heavy with thunder. The skies above the mansion were split by lightning and the walls shook with the roar of the storm. Servants hurried through the halls with candles, for the great power stones of the mansion had failed. Darkness pressed in on every corner. The mother sat with her daughter near the window. Her heart was restless. She had watched weeks of effort, weeks of tears and small steps, but doubt still clung to her. What if this storm was a sign? What if the miracle they hoped for was nothing more than a cruel dream? Arik was there too. Standing quietly in the dim light, his face was calm, though shadows danced across it with each flash of lightning. "Fear makes chains heavier," he said softly. "But hope breaks them. Tonight is not the night to stop." His words were steady, like the anchor of a ship in a raging sea. Leora sat in her chair, her small hands gripping the armrests. Her legs trembled, not from cold, but from something deeper. She looked at Arik and whispered, "Without the lights, I cannot see the frames, I cannot use the supports." Arik shook his head gently. "Tonight you will stand on your own. The storm will not guide you. Your strength will." The mother gasped. "No, she cannot. She will fall, she will break." But before she could stop them, Arik knelt before the girl. His hands rested lightly on her knees. "You have walked in pieces, now it is time to walk in truth. Do not look for me. Do not look for your mother. Look only within yourself." Leora's heart pounded. She closed her eyes. Her breath came, heavy. She could feel the storm's rhythm shaking the glass behind her. For a moment she almost said no. But then she remembered the boy in Arik's story, the boy who stood when no one believed. She whispered, "Again." Arik helped her rise. From the chair, his hand supported her until she was standing. Her legs shook violently, but she did not fall. Lightning flashed, showing her small frame against the tall windows. She looked fragile, like a branch caught in the wind, yet unbroken. "Take one step," Arik said. His voice was barely louder than the storm, but it cut through the air like steel. Leora moved her foot forward. Her body swayed, her knees screamed, but the step landed. The sound of her bare foot striking the cold floor echoed like thunder. The mother covered her mouth, tears rushing down her cheeks. Her heart screamed to run forward, to hold her child, but something held her back. This moment was not hers. It was her daughter's. "Another," Arik whispered. Leora's chest heaved, sweat slid down her brow. She moved her other foot, trembling, but it landed too. One step, then another. Her face twisted with pain, but her eyes shone with fire. The mansion that had once been silent now filled with the sound of footsteps. Small, shaky, but real. The storm outside roared as if the sky itself was watching. Lightning lit the hall again and again. Every flash showed the girl's small figure taking steps toward her mother. She was crying. Not from weakness, but from strength. She wanted to reach the arms she had always dreamed of running into. Arik stayed behind her, his hands close but not touching. His eyes were fierce, his lips pressed tight. He would not help her now. This was her battle, and she was winning at last after what felt like forever. Leora's legs gave way. She stumbled forward, and before she hit the ground, her mother caught her. The girl fell into her arms, her face against her mother's chest. The mother sobbed, uncontrollably. "You walked, my child, you walked to me." The storm raged on, but inside the mansion a greater storm had ended. The silence was broken. The curse of stillness was shattered. The servants who had gathered at the edges of the hall fell to their knees. Some cried, some whispered prayers. They had seen a miracle not born of riches or machines, but of will. Arik stood in the shadows, his face hidden in the dim glow. He said nothing, only watched as mother and daughter held each other. His mission was not finished, but tonight, something eternal had begun. The mother lifted her face toward him, her tears still falling. "I do not understand how. I do not know why. But you gave her the strength no one else could." Her voice trembled. "For this, there is no price great enough." Arik only bowed his head. "I did nothing but remind her of the strength she already carried." That night, the storm outside slowly faded. The winds grew quiet, the thunder distant, but in the heart of the Mansion. The sound of footsteps remained, steps that would never be forgotten. The mansion that once knew only silence now trembled with whispers of wonder. Servants still spoke of the night of thunder, when the girl had stood and walked. The memory was fresh in every mind, but none felt it deeper than the mother. She could not forget the feeling of her daughter falling into her arms, not because she was weak, but because she had walked to reach her. The mother had held her child many times before, but never like that. Never with such pride, never with such relief. It was as if her heart had broken open and been remade. In the morning, the suns rose over the silver hills, spilling golden light through the mansion's high windows. The mother sat beside Leora's bed, watching her sleep peacefully. The girl's small chest rose and fell, her face soft, her hands resting on her stomach. For the first time in years, her daughter slept, like one who had conquered something great. The mother's tears came again. She tried to hide them, but they flowed freely. She had always been seen as powerful, strong, untouchable. Yet here she was, weeping like a child. Servants passing the hall lowered their eyes, not out of shame, but out of respect. They had never seen their lady so human. Arik entered quietly, his steps gentle on the polished floor. He paused at the doorway, watching. The mother looked up and quickly wiped her face, but it was useless. Her eyes were red. "You should not see me like this," she whispered. Arik shook his head. "There is no shame in tears. They are not weakness, they are truth." She looked at him, her lips trembling. "All my wealth, all my treasures, they gave me nothing. But you, one human with nothing but stories and faith, gave me my daughter back." Her voice broke. "How can I ever repay this?" Arik stepped closer, his voice calm. "I do not ask for riches. I do not need reward. What I gave was not mine to keep. It was hers already. I only helped her find it." His words struck her like a blade, cutting away the pride she had worn for so long. The mother bowed her head. She thought of the great halls filled with jewels, the ships carrying treasures, the gardens blooming with rare flowers. It felt empty compared to the sound of her daughter's footsteps. For years she had measured her worth in gold. Now she knew her true worth was measured in love. That day she spent hours with Leora. The girl, though tired, begged to try again. The mother tried to refuse, wanting her to rest, but Leora's eyes burned with determination. "I am not broken," the girl whispered. "I will stand again." And so the training continued. Slow, painful, but alive with courage. Each time Leora stumbled, her mother rushed forward, not to stop her, but to catch her. Each time she stood, the mother's heart soared higher. The mansion, once heavy with sorrow, became filled with the rhythm of small steps and the sound of laughter returning. At night, when all was quiet, the mother sat by the window alone. She looked at the stars and whispered, "Thank you," not knowing if she spoke to gods, fate, or simply the universe itself. She remembered the day she had prayed to the stars for a miracle. Now she knew the answer had not come as magic, but as a human, fragile and mortal, yet stronger than all her riches. The servants began to notice the change in their lady. She no longer walked with her chin held high in cold pride. Instead, she walked slowly, gently, with eyes softer than before. She smiled more. She spoke kindly, and when her daughter laughed, she laughed with her. The mansion was alive again, not with wealth, but with warmth. One evening, as the suns painted the horizon in fire and gold, the mother sat with Arik in the great hall. Leora practiced steps across the carpet, her tiny legs trembling, but her face glowing. The mother turned to Arik, her eyes still wet with tears. "I thought I was powerful, but I was blind. My daughter's courage, your faith, these are greater than any empire. You made me see what truly matters." Arik looked at her, his expression calm. "It was never me. It was always her, and it was always you. She fought because she loved you. You wept because you loved her. That is the strength no riches can buy." The mother's tears came again, but this time they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of freedom. For the first time in her life, she felt rich in the way that mattered. She reached for her daughter, who stood proudly at the end of the hall. "Come to me, my child," she whispered. And step by shaky step Leora walked. The mother's heart swelled as she fell to her knees, arms wide. "You are my treasure, greater than all the stars," she cried. And when Leora reached her, both mother and daughter held each other tightly. Their tears mingled, falling onto the cold floor that no longer felt cold. The mansion that once knew silence now knew love. And the mother who once measured life in jewels now measured it in footsteps and tears. The suns rose bright over the silver hills, bathing the mansion in golden light. The halls that once carried only silence now carried laughter. Every servant, every guard, even the birds in the gardens seemed to sense that something had changed. It was no longer a house of sorrow, it was a home of hope. Leora walked now, not strong, not steady, but proud. Each step she took was a battle won. Her legs trembled, her arms reached, but she did not stop. She walked across carpets, across marble floors, sometimes falling, always rising, and each time she stood again, the mansion seemed to breathe with her. The mother never left her side. She had become softer, gentler. Every jewel on her neck, every crown in her vault felt meaningless when compared to the sound of her daughter's footsteps. She often whispered to herself, "This is the only treasure that matters." And tears would come, not of sorrow but of joy. The story of the miracle spread beyond the mansion walls. Neighbors whispered of the paralyzed girl who now walked. Traders carried the tale to the markets. Priests spoke of it as a blessing. From the stars, some called it magic, others called it fate. But those who saw with their own eyes knew the truth. It was the will of a child and the guidance of a human. Soon, nobles and rulers came to see. They entered the great hall with curious eyes, expecting to find glowing machines or sacred relics. Instead, they saw a human kneeling beside a girl, teaching her to balance, encouraging her to rise. They saw no spells, no treasures, only patience and faith. Many shook their heads in disbelief, but none could deny the steps they witnessed with their own eyes. The mother watched them all, her heart proud but calm. She no longer cared for their envy or their praise. She had learned that power meant nothing when compared to love. Still, she wanted them to see, to understand that the richest gift in the universe was not gold but courage, not jewels but family. One evening, as the suns dipped low and painted the sky in fire, the mother invited Arik to sit with her in the quiet garden. Leora walked slowly among the flowers, her small hands brushing the petals, her laughter carried on the breeze. The mother turned to Arik, her eyes shining. "I promised you treasure," she said softly. "I promised you riches beyond measure. Tell me what you desire and it shall be yours." Arik looked at her with steady eyes. His voice was calm. "I do not need treasure, I do not need riches. What I wanted, I already have. I wanted her to walk, I wanted her to smile, that is enough." The mother's breath caught. She had offered him the wealth of worlds, and he had refused. She looked at her daughter, standing tall in the fading light, and her tears came again. "You are unlike any I have ever known," she whispered. Arik smiled faintly. "Humans are not special because of strength or wealth or power. We are special because we believe, even when all reason says we should not. We rise after every fall. That is what I gave her, the reminder that she too can rise." The mother bowed her head. "You gave me more than that. You gave me my family back. You gave me life where I had none." Her voice trembled. "There is no price for that. No measure, no limit." That night, when Leora walked into her mother's arms once more, the hall filled with joy. Servants clapped, guards cheered. Even the air seemed lighter. The mother held her child close, whispering into her ear, "You are my treasure, my miracle, my reason." And for the first time, Leora whispered back, "And you are mine." Arik stood at a distance, his heart steady. He had no need for praise, no need for reward. He had done what he came for, yet he knew this was not the end. It was a beginning, not only for Leora, but for her mother, for the mansion, for everyone who had seen the miracle. In the days that followed, people came not to see the mansion's jewels, but to see the girl walk. They came not to hear of wealth, but to hear her laughter. The mansion became a place not of riches, but of hope. And the mother, once feared for her power, became known for her kindness, for her tears, for her love. As for Arik, he remained humble, always reminding them, it was never me, it was always her. But deep inside, the mother knew the truth. Without him, the miracle would have remained a dream. He was the spark that lit the fire, the hand that guided the first step. And so the story was told across worlds, not of jewels, not of ships, not of crowns, but of a human who gave a paralyzed girl her legs and gave a mother her heart. A gift beyond wealth, a gift beyond measure, a gift that would echo through generations.